Well, week 4 is in the books, and let me tell you, folks, if you made it out of this week's matchups without an injury, consider yourself lucky. With season-ending injuries all over the league, the landscape of the fantasy league is sure to change drastically. But before we get into the matchups, I have some choice words for one of you out there. Roger Goodell, if you're listening, and I know you are, can we cool it with the international games? I don't want to say the Dublin game cost me my matchup, but come on, man, it certainly impacted it. An early morning player declared out cost countless fantasy teams a win. And until I'm in the press box at the Super Bowl, frankly, I'm not sure if I can forgive you, Mr. Commissioner of the NFL, so boo on you, Roger. Or as they say in Ireland, le boo. All that to say, Stacey won our low-scoring affair, where neither team was successful in breaking 100 points. Javonte Williams continues to be one of her highest-scoring players on her team, who no doubt benefited from the overtime game between the Cowboys and the Packers. She moves up to 2-2, while I slide to 1-3. Speaking of injuries, my dear league mate Jake threw out his back last weekend. And while reports are coming out that he doesn't plan to miss much time, Rebecca capitalized on her opportunity and wins her second game of the year. The top 2 scorers in this matchup on either side of the ball, Josh Jacobs for Jake and Rain Dakota Prescott for Rebecca, both benefited from the overtime tie on Sunday night. Jake was one of those teams impacted the most this weekend, as he loses both Malik Neighbors and Tyreek Hill. He's got some talent on the bench that will look to fill in the big holes left by those 2 star players. While we're on the subject of taking advantage of injuries, George Pickens put up big numbers for Jared that made an impact for Jared in his win over Dylan. Although, to be honest, George Pickens could have sat out this entire game, and Jared still would have had a win under his belt in this matchup. With a point difference of 44 points, Jared collects another win here and leaps to second place in the league. Must have been that boost from his beloved horse in the Hedges Derby. Dylan stays afloat at 2-2, while Puka Nacua continues to put up cheat code numbers. But Dylan will have to get creative in the coming weeks, while his quarterback Lamar Jackson deals with a hamstring injury. Oh, by the way, he just listed his backup quarterback Caleb Williams as likely to trade. Wouldn't it be great if the app we use actually told anyone about that? The ESPN Fantasy app doesn't seem to think so, and that's just great. Remarkably, the matchup between Justin and Shandell featured not one single injury, season-ending or otherwise. Justin takes a win in a matchup where both teams put up pretty average scores, but the real story here is the running backs on the bench for these teams. Woody Marks and Kenneth Gainwell put up nearly 30 points each. We'll be watching to see if these performances were enough to earn a spot on their starting lineups. Otherwise, don't be surprised if these owners are looking to sell these players at a premium. Over in the bowl, Rachel takes another dub against her dear mother. This makes her undefeated so far this season against her nuclear family. Hey, you want to know what else is nuclear? Ashton Genty, with his breakout game this weekend, even though it was against the Bears. It seems like the Raiders will be hitting the ground running and using him to his full potential if he can repeat performances like this one. Shireen takes a tough loss in this one, where her quarterback Jalen Hurts didn't complete a single pass in the second half of the game against Tampa Bay. You heard that correctly. Jalen Hurts had this many passing yards for 2 straight quarters. Will this be a trend for the Eagles? We'll be interested to see, since receiver A.J. Brown tweeted, quote, "If you're not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and be on your way," end quote. Typical wide receiver stuff, am I right? And last but certainly not least, we have the sibling rivalry between Matthew and Elizabeth. And our season's first,
Kingslayer.
Matthew takes the top of the standings thanks to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Deebo Samuel. Both of whom were the stars of the show for Matthew in this one. Not forgetting, of course, Jordan Love, who, like many of the top stars this week, got that sweet, sweet overtime boost. We'll see which side his butter is breaded on next week when he takes on his own mother. Elizabeth can take pride here in knowing that she set her lineup nearly perfectly and was merely a victim of tough matchups for her top players. She will look to take on and take down Rachel this week as they both fight for their piece of the first place bye. And that's all the matchup from last week. But before we go, let's take to the racetrack for a special number 5 themed edition of the Hedges Derby. And it looks like Stacy is our lucky horse of the week. Do not let that go to waste. And that's our show from this week. And remember, bye weeks have begun, so keep an eye on your roster and don't you dare start a player that's on bye.